You guys did awesome. You know, other high schools don't get that experience, I don't think. And yeah, Caroline, that was you guys did a great job there. I do like to talk in story and analogy, and so this group I think really gets the story that I'm going to share today, and I do believe that a lot of kids don't, and it's sad. So today I do want to talk about George Washington. Mm-hmm. Okay, so in the beginning, when George Washington and his group were fighting for our country to even exist, he was really good at something, and it was retreating. He got beat up a lot out on the battlefield, and in order to keep his armory and his men, he would have to retreat. And he got really good at retreating. And it's the thing to note that when a group had cannons and guns and bullets and all those things, those were hard to come by. And the way you expanded your armory was conquering your opponent and stealing their stuff. So he was to a point where here they are now, Christmas Eve and Christmas Day going on, and they had this plan of going and attacking, but there was some infighting at the same time. There were other guys that wanted his position, and so he was at a place where his men were coming up and their enlistment was almost over. And January 1, it was over. And they were just getting beaten. They didn't have shoes, some of them, they weren't well dressed, they didn't have food, their pay wasn't great. And so there was no real reason for them to stay. They were on a losing team, okay? But George Washington, being who he is, put together the plan, and the plan was to go across the Delaware, as we saw one of the groups up here did a really good job, right there. Yeah. And no easy task, right? They had to gather boats. The Durham boats were known in the area because there was a lot of trade that they could take big, heavy things and cross the river, whether it was grain or ore or whatever, or people. And so first they had to get all these boats, and it was, at the time, when you look at the people that were living there, and it was kind of equal numbers. One was for the cause, one was kind of okay with the cause, but not really putting themselves out there, and one was not for the cause. Okay, so they had to go around, and the strategy to get these boats even was, hey, this is what we're doing, can we borrow your boat? And some people said yes, or this is what we're doing, can we borrow your boat? And if the answer was no, then it's, can we buy the boat? And if the answer was no, then they would just take the boat. So anyway, here they are now, facing a significant storm, crossing bigger than the Snake River section of the Delaware, and there's ice, and but this failures that he had faced all through this war, having lost New York, having lost New Jersey, and now here he was across the Delaware, had set him up for this moment. So now him and his men, everybody crossed, and the idea was to be across by midnight. And he had another group that they needed to cross to be able to do certain things that ultimately they weren't able to. But he got his group across because it meant more to him than anything. And it meant more to his men than anything to cross. So they get across, now it's 3 a.m. and they gotta hike 9 miles, carrying all the armory, pushing all the cannons, getting to where they needed to be for the surprise attack. So I always love the memes that say, yeah, United States were the guys that will attack you on Christmas Day and kill you, or whatever they are during the holiday season. But so here he is, and his strategy was, okay, they're not expecting this, because typically you don't fight in the winter, and typically you don't fight on Christmas Day or the day after Christmas. And so but not only was he going to go and attack, but he was attacking one of the most feared groups of military, which was the Hessians. Hessians weren't British, they were German descent, and they were guns for hire, but they were very good at what they did. And so now they are crossing. He's got guys that honestly aren't even the best soldiers. and he's going to face the toughest army that exists at that time, or at least one of them. The Hessians they instilled fear. So they roll in, and surprise, here we are, and other strategies, they didn't kill the leaders. Americans, we look at, okay, if I take the leaders out, then nobody knows what to do. And so our side did. They killed the leaders and ultimately won one of the first times George Washington had a major win, and his men were inspired, and his men were behind him. And for the next 10 days, he did go on to go and do great things. And then ultimately, the men and people around began to enlist and began to get behind the cause. So during this time, again, he was a great leader, and I would say he had a brilliant military mind in how he attacked, but he didn't have full support from his group. And he was facing, during just a terrible storm, crossing the river, being behind schedule, pushing through, getting there, having a victory, and then marching on for the next 10 days and just taking care of business. Ultimately, as they were in Valley Forge for a winter, he hired a coach of sorts, or was inspired by Benjamin Franklin to listen and be coached by Baron von Steuben, Frederick, one of those crazy long names. And that guy did instill not only the passion that George Washington had brought to the people, but something more that George Washington couldn't do, which was really, this is how you fight. And so now these men were gaining in numbers, were becoming better soldiers and honing their craft at the time to ultimately become the nation that we now have become. Now, my story is not perfect, but it's pretty much there. You've probably heard that story before, but I just love it because it was okay. All we've ever known is failure, but we're good at crossing rivers with our cannons. So let's go cross this one and go take care of business, and let's hike up there and get it done. So I share that story, and the analogy then becomes. For those of you that decide that you want to become an entrepreneur or own your own business, you need to know that the plan that you start with is not going to work. I mean, typically. I've never had a plan be successful. I've been successful, but it's the failure. So this is something that I didn't coin this phrase that I'm going to share, but I'm going to say that someone took credit for it. But it's that fear kills more dreams than failure ever will, okay? So the failure is where we learn. You think George Washington and his group enjoyed retreating? He just valued his men and his armory more when he saw a situation that he could not win, that he retreated. And that retreat prepared him to be the person that could cross the Delaware in the middle of a storm with all of his men. Now, during that fight, our side only lost 2 men, and that was during the crossing. Their side lost a few, and they captured 900 Hessians that day. So it was a big deal. So Mike Tyson, I'm not saying he's a good person or a bad person, just saying he has kind of a funny quote, which I might not get 100%, but it's this, that everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face, okay? So I'll say this, that being an entrepreneur is a lot like getting punched in the face. It's a lot like getting punched in the gut. And you have to have the vision of what is it that I'm trying to accomplish. So, and then know that, okay, this is the route I'm gonna go. And it's not that when you have failure isn't telling you that you can't accomplish what you want. Failure is your best friend. How does that sound? Failure loves you. Because all failure is telling you is you can have what you want, you just can't do it this way, so stop doing it this way and figure it out, okay? So here I am now. My wife and I ran a school. It was her dream and it wasn't mine, and I hated every minute of it. I didn't. I say that jokingly, I kind of did at the same time. We owned a beauty school. So it was me and a bunch of women for 15 years, which I love you women, but oh my gosh, that was rough. She ultimately said, hey, let's sell this thing, and we did that. And now we're still trying to find ourselves, but along the way, I gained a passion, as Logan kind of discussed, with cold plunging and sauna. And I love cold plunge and sauna. And it is life-changing. And everyone, when they see us cutting a hole in the Snake River, cutting a hole in the ice to get in the river, think we're crazy, and we are. But we're also gaining something from that because we're doing hard things together. So when I started this journey about 3 years ago, I built a sauna in a mobile trailer. And it's good, not great, but it's good. We could get it up, it was wood burning, it was cool. We'd get in the sauna, or we'd get in the river, we'd get in the sauna, we'd do that a few times. And then I sold that one because I didn't love it. And the whole time it's like, okay, this is the space I want to be in, but I don't know how to monetize it because I don't want to sit at a river collecting $5 to $10 at a time. Okay, so in business you have to, because the last business that me and my wife ran was not a scalable business. When I say scalable, what does that mean? Anybody? Logan, do you want me to put you on the spot, or do you want me to go forward?
Sophomores, we talked about this. What's a scalable business? Or whatever it is. Yes, that's
Yes.
Is it just a business that can grow like exponentially?
Yeah, so you can grow it to where it has no end, in essence, okay? So when you look at software, those are real scalable businesses. A beauty school is not. It's up, down, or flat. The only way I can scale is by opening another beauty school. And I already have one headache, I don't need two, okay? So for me, to stick the model being, okay, I pulled my trailer down to the river, now I'm gonna charge people. I don't even charge people. I say, hey, if you wanna give me a couple bucks for gas, I'll take it, but if not, just show up and have fun. So for 3 years, I've sat there kind of obsessing about it, and then along the way, I met these kids, and they're literally kids. One's a senior in Bonneville, and they're 3 brothers, and the oldest one's 22, and they started making saunas. And I'm good at sales and marketing and other things, and they're good at saunas, so now we're kind of teaming up, and I'll have my own sauna brand. I'm working on theirs first because their marketing has been good, not great. But it's super scalable, and so it goes from being, how do I do this, to, man, I don't want to do it this way, and I don't want to make saunas. To now, it's like, now I understand how to make a cold plunge for people in their home and a sauna in their home, because there is a big group of people that like my crazy stuff. So, oh, and by the way, today's Thursday, right? 7 p.m. tonight down at the boat ramps will be starting, so come on down and jump in the river.
Extra credit for anybody that goes.
And you can just come and enjoy the sauna. You don't have to get in the river. The river is the cold part that freaks people out, but and the sauna is where the conversations happen, and it's just amazing. So now, sauna 2.0 is what I call it. It's a big old yellow school bus. Half of it's a sauna, and half of it's sitting area, and I drive it around. My grandkids think I'm the coolest guy ever, and of course I am. So anyway, but being an entrepreneur is being willing to work harder and longer hours for less pay and less benefits and less everything, 401ks, than people that take a job, which there's nothing wrong with taking a job. But if you truly want to be an entrepreneur, it's that you want to put in more time to ultimately become the person and the leader that will allow you to scale back and let other people run the business while you scale it up. And so that's coming back to George Washington. Benjamin Franklin saw that George Washington, as great of a leader as he truly was, as great of an understanding of the battlefield and cutting people off and doing all these things, he still needed a mentor and a leader with the men, and that's where the Baron came into play, who ultimately came in and trained the men to be better fighters. So as you go out, and you will have success as an entrepreneur, but don't let it go to your head. You're only as good as your next transaction, okay? And as you bring people on and you have employees and you inspire them, then you need to become a better leader. The person that when you start the business, the person that you are that day, and the person that you need to become are not the same person. It is, but it isn't. There's so much that you have to learn, and you get to learn it through the School of Hard Knocks. I have a PhD from the School of Hard Knocks, I believe. They didn't give me a certificate either. I'm really mad at their administration, I'll say that. So, my point here is that along the way, don't be afraid to get a coach, or don't be afraid to create community. The things that I do in addition to this is I create masterminds, and I wanted to create one just with myself and 11 other people, so 12 people total. Well, so many people had interest in it. I'm now up to 48 people that are in these masterminds where business owners come and meet at my warehouse and we talk through their issues, and it's really structured. But I believe that getting other people's eyes on what you're doing and paying for a coach, I paid $8,000 for a year with a coach, and that's cheap, just so you know. I've got friends that have super scalable businesses that pay over $100,000 a year for their coach. And so, as George Washington brought a coach in, as you grow and you have your wins, sometimes you need another set of eyes on your business, and so don't be afraid to get a mentor or pay for a coach that's specific for your vertical or specific for your industry. After we sold Austin Cade, I actually became super depressed, as much as I loved my business and hated it at the same time. And I kind of sat around, and then I went and took a job. And I can tell you, I can't work for somebody else. and it was a great company, and it was friends that owned it, and I went into their business development, and I helped to grow the business. And I did that for a total of 8 months, and that just added to my depression. And I will say, just to note, that if you're feeling depressed or anxiety, seek help. Because my wife was like, you need to get some help. And I'm like, no, just rub some dirt on it. No, I did. I needed help, and I got the help I needed, and it brought me back out of it, okay? But the thing I learned is I couldn't work for somebody else. I have to be my own guy, and for good or bad, and that's fine. But anyway, I'm kind of babbling a little bit at this point, Logan. So I think George Washington set the stage for the greatest country in the world on what it takes to be a true entrepreneur, and that is failure, learning from mistakes, becoming better at what you do, and then going and kicking the Hessians right in the teeth. I mean, he was just great leadership. So anyway, with that, I'm gonna turn it back to Logan.
We're gonna have some questions.
Okay, questions, yeah.
First of all, let's give him a hand. Questions open. I'll bring the mic to you so we can hear. Oliver? Zoe, you're next.
So what's your end game plan with the sauna making business? Are you planning to sell it, just keep scaling until you die?
Yeah, I took 57 yesterday, so death is closer and closer every day. So that is such a great question, because too many entrepreneurs start without looking at how do I exit. Exiting is hard, and so the advantage that I think that my wife and I had working together, and I don't think we'll ever do that again. We're happily married, but working together is, it's rough. But having an exit, so when you start, it's what is your exit? So my exit is to grow this, to ultimately put people in my position, let it run for 10 years, and then sell it off, absolutely. Now in selling it off, during that time, I need to show year-over-year growth. And if I don't, then I might as well just hold on to it. If I can't see that, okay, look at all the money I have invested in this with time, with marketing, with resources and everything else, and every vertical gets different marks in terms of our multiples in terms of what they'll sell a business for. Ours, when we sold Austin Cade, was about 2.5. Tech businesses that never show profit get like 30-time multiple of some fictitious number. Does it sound like I'm a little annoyed? Yeah, I hate those companies. They steal resources and then fail, but then somebody became a billionaire out of it on something that never turned a profit. It annoys me to know that. So anyway, so that's my strategy. I always have an exit strategy. Zoe, my friend Zoe, me and Zoe are friends, just so everybody knows.
So when you were a kid, did you always want to be an entrepreneur, or did you have like a different job that you dreamed of doing?
I was a middle child, so no one paid attention to me. No, my dad, and he passed away in 2020, he was a CPA. He wanted me to be a CPA, and I did not want to be a CPA. And my dad's thing was he could go in and buy a company that was failing, so he was buying it on sale at that point. And before he bought it, he would do his due diligence and know how much in assets the company had, whether that was in equipment or receivables or other things, that he knew that if all he did was shut the doors down, he would make more money. And so he would sit there and explain that to me and my brothers. And my two brothers, my older brother and younger brother, are way more successful than I am. But it was him instilling that in us, that yeah, I didn't know what I wanted. I still don't. Asanas and kefir and microgreens and sprouts are kind of my thing. That's the world I want to live in. But yeah, so it was more of my upbringing and my dad talking about red and black ink when you're which means profit and loss and things like that. And so it just kind of was who we were. My brothers and him believed in buying existing companies, and I like to walk up school both ways, so I always do a startup, which I don't recommend unless you really can get kicked in the gut over and over again. If you can buy an existing company, do that. So anyway, so yeah, I don't know. It was always to have a business. I didn't always know what it was, and now it is just do that. So thank you. Got some questions about it.
So when starting a business, what would you rather choose? A business you love or a business that's going to make you more money?
So money is not my driving force, but money unfortunately matters. When you do something you love, you will end up hating it at the same time. So I've watched friends that have opened bakeries, and then it's like they have such a demand for their product that they are up at 4 a.m. and baking till whenever, getting everything ready, and they end up hating baking. So if the route is truly, I'm going to do something I love, take into consideration the amount of work it takes to make it profitable. So sometimes it is doing, you want to know a super thing that sounds, it's not glamorous, it's an industry though that I always kind of look at like, look at that. It's waste removal, so trash men and women, right? Those companies are $1 billion, and it's super fragmented, and you'll see at some point a big conglomerate come in and buy them all up. But yeah, waste removal. If you want to get into something, figure out, like on construction sites, rolling in and dropping a bin, they fill it up, you empty it, you bring it back. They have to pay you daily for it. They have to pay you every time that you dump that bin. I mean, just trash removal, right? So not super exciting, but yeah. So to your point, I don't know that I'm answering your question, but I'm always going to choose things I love, and because money's not my driving force, although I need money, and at some point I want to retire, and I don't have that ability today. But I have a vision of how to get there. But it's always look at what is the best opportunity. Would be how I would do it. Not just so much do I love it or what are the dollar amounts. Look at what are the opportunities and what can I do with this. So.
What was the biggest punch of the gun that you dealt with?
Oh my gosh. So at Austin State Academy, when you're a for-profit school, the government hates you. And to become an accredited school, you have to be in business for 3 years. So I'm dealing with the state of Idaho, I'm dealing with an accrediting board, I'm dealing with the Department of Education, and none of them have the ability to manage me. And that sounds super arrogant, but they are just dumb as rocks. And that's me being me, because, yeah. So the biggest punch in the gut is we would do all these things only to have someone say, well, this report you submitted, blah, blah, blah. Another punch in the gut that you'll face as an entrepreneur is you will receive negative reviews. You will have people tell people how terrible you are. Disneyland has more negative reviews than I've ever had. So you have to be prepared to take the high road and that punch in the gut that someone writes a negative review. So anytime someone wrote a negative review on our school or on my barber shop, I went right underneath it, and I didn't write what was in my head, I'll tell you that right now. But it was always like, I'm sorry you had that experience. I'm the owner of this place. I stand behind what we do. This is my cell number, which I would put on, right under the review, I put my cell number. And everyone says, that's crazy. Why would you do that? Because I want them to call me. Guess how many people called me? 0. So they're real brave behind that keyboard at 3 a.m. in the morning in their underwear, writing how terrible I am. But they won't have a conversation, right? So there's other punches in the gut, like receivables. Don't ever do a job that you don't get some money from up front. Depending, right? Vet your clients, because if you do a bunch of work and you can't get paid, you're going out of business real quick. There's a lot of punches in the guts. So those are just a couple, but yeah, no fun.
Do you have any advice for someone that wants to start their own business?
Yeah, do it. Yeah. So the number one thing, and people will disagree with me, but is start talking about it. This is what I'm going to do. Start talking about it, because it's accountability, okay? Because if you say, like, what's a business that you would want to do? Farming. Farming is such a hot topic right now. I love it. Because instead of farming, because you can educate people on how to farm, right? You can be super niche and do stuff for people that's delivery, and there's a lot of profit in that. So instead of being a big farm that has hundreds of thousands of acres and is using all this GMO and all the things to make their stuff grow properly, you can be a super small niche farm and get after it. So, but it's starting to tell people right now, I'm going to be a farmer. I'm going to find 2 acres. You know how much produce you can grow on 2 acres? And that's how you can start. So yeah, so if you're thinking of being an entrepreneur, start telling people, this is what I'm thinking of doing. And then so here comes a kick in the gut. Someone's going to tell you it's a bad idea. Don't listen to them. Yeah. Doesn't mean you're going to be successful. I think you will. But just, yeah.
What was the hardest part about starting a business?
Working with my wife. I'm glad she's not. But it is, when you look at it, we didn't have any revenue coming in. We had very little revenue coming in. I had, at the top of the mark, every year we paid $800,000 a year in payroll just to pay my employees to work there. Not even rent, utilities. That's where, when you look to scale, everything scales with you, except maybe tech. Tech scales a little better, but they still have to start employing more people and things like that. So part of this, the scariness to it, and in the first 3 years when we owned Austin Cade Academy, the first 3 years of Austin Cade Academy, while we were becoming an accredited school, every full-time employee made more money than me. Yeah, there's a book called Leaders Eat Last. I don't like it, but it's true. So every full-time employee made more money than me. The second we became accredited and we had financial aid and our enrollment went up, so did my pay. Because I'm not working for free. Too many people will sit there and work in a business where they won't pay themselves and they'll pay their employees. It's like, why are you doing that? I've literally sworn at friends that were doing that weren't taking a paycheck out of their business for 3 years. No, that's not why we do businesses. And if you do that, shut it down. You're not doing anything. You're going to kill yourself early. So.
How old would you have to be to start a business?
What's that?
How old were you? How old would you have to be to start a business?
That is the most amazing thing. I see stories on kids that are like not even out of grade school that built an app or did something that made millions of dollars. So you can do things now, and right now it would be more service stuff. So what's a service thing, whether it's, I hate to say, whether it's babysitting or yard work or anything service oriented. If you have a driver's license, well, I don't know what Uber Eats and all those delivery places, what their requirements are, but there's people just out hustling that. Is that a business? Well, no, but you are having to manage your gas and your time and turn a profit on it. So it's like a micro business, these little microcosms that get created through technology, I think are great. So, one more question? You guys have great questions, by the way.
Have you had any major changes in business throughout your career? And if so, what was the biggest one?
Yeah. So let's talk about marketing, because that's really where I focused and networked and things like that. When we first came here, we ran radio ads straight for probably 7 years. We had a jingle. You guys are probably too young to even know it, but it was Austin Cade.
Austin Cade Academy.
Yeah. And so, and then I got kind of disenchanted with the business, and I said, you know what, I'm going to go do something else. And the person that took over my space is Julie Whitehead, who is Neil. What's Neil's first name? Last name? Larson. Zoe. So Neil Larson's right-hand lady. They do a talk show together. She used to be our VP, and she said we are taking our marketing and going strictly digital. And I was like, what a terrible idea, as I was walking out the door. And I left the business for about 6 months and had to come back because the people that were, Julie was doing a great job. It was the people that were in enrollment that weren't. Anyway, we went from being on radio. How many of you know who Z103's disc jockey is in the morning? Do they even have one? See, do you even know what Z103 is? What is it? It's a radio station. Well, where do you listen to your radio? Where your music? On what? Carhartt? Is that what you said? Oh, in the car. But where is it coming from? Your iPad, your iPod, or what's it coming from? You're listening to the radio. Well, I'm just going to say that one of the biggest things is marketing has gone from, it used to be that you would market on TV, and then you'd market in Yellow Pages. Yellow Pages, oh my gosh, you used to have to pay exorbitant. Do you guys even know what the Yellow Pages are? Yeah, the Yellow Pages. You know what a Yellow Page is? So the Yellow Pages, you'd have to pay thousands of dollars monthly to be in the Yellow Pages to have a relevant ad, because that's where people would go to look up your business. And Yellow Pages aren't around. And then TV is becoming more and more cutthroat. Like, I would never market on TV for the things I do. Radio, you guys aren't listening as much to the radio, but my demographic and older are, so Neil Larson's show for the people that want to go and talk about, you know, all the negative things that are happening in the world, and I want to market to those people, then Neil Larson's show would be great for that. But it is getting, the technology is so good that when you start talking in front of your phone, you start seeing ads for whatever that product is. That's how good the technology is. So one of the biggest changes has been marketing. And I'm just a firm believer that marketing is getting to know your client, because before, big corporations, they don't want you to know you, they just want your money. I want to know my client and have them have a great experience at my events and buy my product and sing praises about me. And so marketing to those people has just evolved over the past 15 years at such a fast rate that it's just crazy. So, you know.
Awesome. Let's get time.